it's like the day that I have time to wash my hair is a big day.
Mine is COVID hair. I haven't had my hair cut in 19 months, but I'm happy to announce it will be done on Tuesday.
Oh, yay.
Right?
Let me put this down here. I'm getting some feedback. If I'm sorry, it's going, my internet right now is going a little spotty. So can everybody, is there feedback right now?
Mine is, that's why my video is off, because if I turn it on, you sound like you're underwater and it cuts out, like I drop off, which is bad. So I'm not being rude. Go for it, girl.
All righty. Okay. I know we have to be out by 4, so let's go through this real quickly. So I understand, and Karen, I think you have this up on the screen. If you don't mind just toggling along.
Yep.
I think everybody has, well, first of all, can you quickly tell me what you're running for?
Hi, Jessica, running for NME in high school district.
Hi, Jessica.
Good to
nice to see you again.
You too.
Brenda Short, running for city mayor in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
All right. I have family out that way.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bernier, and I'm running for city council in Orange County, La Habra.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, so first of all, I don't want to assume anything. I know you all are first-time candidates, but everybody has gotten their treasurer, right? So you're on the legally compliant path, right, for getting your committee. Okay, great. So we can skip through this for the sake of time. Although the part here about working with your team, are you all in the process of getting your teams put together? Or yes? Okay, so you all have do you all have consultants?
No.
Not yet? Okay, so Brenda, you don't, but everybody else does. Okay. So when you get your team, I know teams based on your budget can look anything like, hey, you just have one person helping out, right? Versus having a full-fledged advisor, somebody doing your mail program, your digital program, etc. They will be giving you a budget, and so as you develop your fundraising plan, it's very important that they give you dates like, hey, by this date, you're going to need to raise this much out to get this mail piece out, because we can oftentimes really strategically work around hitting those targets and getting donors to come in and say, fund a mail piece or a digital ad for you, an extra canvasser, etc. But you have to know dates. So getting all that calendared out. And I know people used to work backwards from, election date. Like right now in California, our primary is June 7th. That's not the election date. The election day is actually May 9th, when budgets or when all ballots go out to voters. In Minnesota, are you doing all vote by mail as well? No? Okay, got it. So you still, okay. Okay. All righty, let's go to the next one.
Wait a minute.
Deposit due dates. That's again, your due dates. Let's say you buy on the slates, etc. That's all around your calendaring and knowing what your overall budget is. I would say that most consultants are going to give you like an A budget. This is like your wish list budget, and then they're going to give you a lower budget, right? Of, hey, if you don't hit that top one, this is the next B budget or C budget, so that you can visually see what you're going to get with what you raise. And I think that's really important for you. Whether you're doing your fundraising on your own or you're working with a professional fundraiser, having that visualization of what you're working for, because when you talk to donors, they do want to know what your money is going to, right? It helps them be able to give just a bit more or quite a bit, a lot more, if they can be that one donor that gets you over the top to get that ad out. Okay. Operating costs, again, part of the budget. I think we can go to the next slide. Strategic timing. Okay. So organizing data and call time. Right? Have any of you started call time yet? Okay, Jessica, you did. So call time's new. to the rest of you. So on call time, what you want to be as organized as possible, right? So being organized as possible means not just showing up and say, hey, I think I'm going to, let's just look through the phone and piece together. The best type of call time works when you already know ahead of time the people that you're going to target. Maybe it's for like a special event that you're going to be having next month, and you need to put a host committee together and ask people to each give a certain amount to have their name on the invitation, right? So what I like to do is, and not everybody will have the budget to do this, but I do use a fundraising platform called Numero. You could also use a spreadsheet, like a Google spreadsheet, I think works well for a lot of candidates that don't have the extra money to do a call time, but that's going to run somewhere like $300 plus a month. They could just use a Google spreadsheet. And it's very important that you're in your spreadsheet that you like tag your list. So for example, if I'm going to be really focusing my call time to like the labor community, I want to make sure I have like a first name, a last name, your organization, the best number, like cell numbers, right? Emails, and one column, another column, tag everybody down as like labor. You could have a women's list. You could do a Latino leaders list. You could do an LGBTQ list, you know, et cetera. Have all of them tagged. So like you can hyper target, or if you have something that you want to quickly share on a, let's say a big, you want to do really focused on some women leaders and women organizations, you just got a big endorsement. You want to be able to share some like insider campaign news with them. And hey, you know, we want to be able to share this endorsement because we know this endorsement plays really well with voters, but I need to raise like $5,000 more today to do that, so that you can like hyper target things. Hyper targeting really, I found works well in when you're doing a fundraising program. And so, and then all of those folks obviously need to be dropped into an email platform. A lot of candidates will use like MailChimp. Some will use Nation Builder. Some will use Constant Contact. Do any of you have questions at this point on this? I know I'm racing through because of our time, but nope. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. All righty, so this is the thing I always tell candidates: don't be your worst enemy. Meaning, don't be the person that gets in the way of your call time. Almost every candidate views fundraising as their last favorite thing to do in a campaign. They'd rather go to a meet and greet. They'd rather knock on doors, call voters, right? They might even want to go to Central Committee, which can make you pull your hair out sometimes. But call time, just because for so many candidates, especially new candidates, it's like, I hate to do this. I don't want to ask my friends for money or strangers for money, etc. So you can either be your best friend or you can be your worst enemy when it comes to call time. So the most important thing is to get call time on calendar. Even if you're doing your own, right? Just say, no, I'm gonna make time for it. Well, no, like maybe if you have a full-time job, your only time for calls is during lunch. Well, you're gonna have to make a priority, right? So you're running for office. You've made the decision to put 110% of yourself into it. Your donors expect you to be working, right? Your supporters want you to win. So that means you need to be the one making the call. There's time and a place for surrogates to make calls for you. And I'll talk about that. But, donors want to have that personal contact with you, especially if you're somebody up and coming. They want to, be there from like the beginning. So get it on your calendar, do it in a quiet room. if you have an app, you know, all your calls are loaded, you should know like who you're going to target that day. And then don't like, if you happen to have staff, don't count your catching up time, as I put on here, as call time. Like just serious call time's your call time. And then other times for calls, like if you have a friend or a staffer driving you to an event, use that time to capture some more call time. And never, ever, ever sit, like you're going to be invited to a million meetings. You'll probably go to like organization events, etc. You're a candidate. You cannot afford to just sit in a room where you're not doing something. So go to an event where there's mingling, right? Meet new donors. If you're going to a central committee meeting, never stay throughout the whole central committee meeting. You should be out either knocking on doors, talking to voters, or raising dollars. It's either votes or dollars, especially as you get down to crunch time. That's what your time should be centered around. Okay, any questions? Okay, so now donor targets and prospecting, right? So you're going to have your list of people like friends and family, right, etc. But this is, I think, a really good guide about where to start looking for prospects when you're starting from scratch. So do you all have elected officials that are endorsing you? Yes, no, have encouraged you to run? Is thumbs up, thumbs down? No, Brenda, not yet. You'll get there. Michelle, I know Jessica, you do. Yeah. Okay. So if you have elected officials endorsing you, you know, your aspect to them is great, right? Thank you so much, but I'm going to need your help raising money. Ask them for money, but know whether in your race you can accept money from a candidate committee or if they have to give personally. So you got to know all those rules. Other people that encourage you to run, you got to ask them too. Okay, they wanted you to get into this race, so you go back and ask them to give to you. You know, thank you so much for encouraging me, but I got to raise some seed money now to show that I'm strong. So all those people around you that were part of your original cheerleading squad, get them to start raising money for you. Organizations that have given to candidates running in this seat before, look to see who they are. You should know that. You have to know their endorsement process. Don't get stuck like, oh shit, I totally forgot that they only meet once a month and I have to get my endorsement in. So like you have to, all that endorsements pathway has to also be aligned with your fundraising pathway. Labor PACs only meet traditionally once a month, and all groups are already endorsing for the fall. So make sure you're getting in front of them. Organizations with aligned values, very, very important. Organizations and donors that opposed incumbent last time, you can look, were there independent expenditures done against, if you're running against incumbent, right? Like know who those people are and connect with them. And then like labor, as I said, know their schedule. The community base, your own community base. If you're like going to be the first woman in this seat, the first whatever in this seat, like take advantage of that and ask your community for support. Caucus members, I always put this in here, like in your own state, like legislative caucus members, you start building relationships with people who like to start developing, investing in local candidates that could come up the pipeline. Small businesses, community activists, and then like who should care about this race? Like, is there an issue out there? Is it like a housing issue? Is something going on in the schools, et cetera, et cetera? What's in the city that's really getting people fired up? Like know that and know who those people are. And because you always have to tie into like your why are you running, right? So in all of your messaging, also be sure to tie into your why. Like why should people support you? Why are you running? Okay, so next slide. And by the way, everybody knows how to look right up donors, right? You know how to look up the donors who have given before in the reports. Okay, so like in a local jurisdiction, Jessica, I saw Brenda, you know how, Jessica and Michelle. So either it's if for a city seat, oftentimes the cities will have the public portals with the campaign finance filings, you can scan through all of them. You'll just have to go through them. School board, the clerk of the board should keep all that stuff. I mean, you should, there's online filings that you should be able to look up and see that. You could also look up, you know, on the Secretary of State's website for different givers, right? Except like you should know, just make them into your world. Now there's laws, of course, and rules around like federal, like the FEC. You can't be doing solicitation off an FEC report, etc. Just not allowed. Okay, so what have you been doing lately? Now COVID, I really put this in here for when in the height of COVID, right? But hopefully all of you were out and about and around and helping out in your own jurisdictions with COVID. I think that's really important still, even as we transition, hopefully, right? We can go to the next slide, but hopefully you partnered or continue to partner with organizations in your jurisdiction that are doing that work to show, you know, your genuine community involvement. So call time, like given the moment, fundraising is more than ever, you have to be the one doing it. Zoom. So I oftentimes now do Zoom with my clients to do fundraising calls. So the way it'll work is if you have a staffer with you, they'll make the call, you'll be doing, and your staffer, you'll make the call, the staffer will be doing the follow-up in real time. Always start off with a check-in. Hey, how are you doing when you're calling somebody? You'll hear a lot of stories, of course, and timing, like if you're calling a donor and they're busy, clearly busy with kids screaming, time to call back. Text, email to confirm before getting off the phone. And if you can, if you're having a hard time connecting with a prospect, a big one, schedule a time to do, maybe it's a Zoom call or a 15-minute like phone call or an in-person if they're willing, just to get on their calendar, because sometimes that's the only way you're going to get on it. Okay, so next one. Making the ask start to finish, why they should care. Like you should know why a donor should care. Like, do they actually live in the district? Do they care about an issue that you're campaigning on? Do they care that you are a woman running for office? Do they like to give to women? And okay, and then the next one, we can just, ask for a specific amount. Always ask for a specific amount. Like you should know, just knowing the donor's past history, a prospect, if this is somebody that you don't have a relationship with, know what they traditionally give. That's really, really important so that if it's like a max out or if it's like $1,000, if they can't do it, never take that as a final answer. Really go back and say, I know I understand that. But every, you know, honestly, every amount is going to help me win the seat. Can you give 500? If they say no, 250, blah, blah, blah. If they really can't do anything, acknowledge it, be gracious, you know. I'd love to check in with you next month to let you know how the campaign's going. I'll check back in with you and then make a point to calendar that, make sure that you are. Pitch monthly contribution options. I do this with a lot of my folks. For 2022, I have like a $20.22 monthly donor option that you can set up. Like I set that up on our Numero fundraising platform. You can do that on ActBlue if you're using ActBlue. On all these platforms, you should be able to do monthly contribution options. And that's a big deal. And I always tell people, hey, if you donate monthly, you can come to any of our events, right? And then make a plan to collect. Over the phone is best. Credit card, most people, that's the easiest way. Even though you might have a small processing fee with a credit card, you're more likely to get it via credit card than getting a check in the mail. So I do encourage you to get it in real time. Okay, the credit card information. Hey, we can process it right now over the phone. You'll get the receipt right here. I'll stay on the phone with you until you get the receipt or hand it off to your staff to do that. And asking for actions, why you need the money. You can do an additional mailer. Hey, we can win this race if we turn out X number of targeted voters. And in the Latino community. So we're doing this targeted piece, you know, all of that. So definitely ask for specific actions. Your deadline coming up, ask around your deadline. Do it with asks on Facebook. Really try to create a lot of times what I find is you have to, well, you always, not a lot of times, you always have to do both. You have to do your big email blasts, right? Your phone calls, your texts, and then you got to do something on like Facebook or push out on Facebook, right? Because not everyone is going to open up their emails. Oftentimes the emails, even with Constant Contact or MailChimp, they might go into spam or promotions. So you have to elevate it with doing phone calls and the texts and the stuff on social so that they can't miss you. Okay, now I like this one, like asking 100 women in the district to give you $100 a piece, right? So that's what we're gonna do today. And if you have something bad to say, you know, maybe your opponent's been really bad to women, so you can work that in. Virtual and in-person meetings with prospects. Get to know the gatekeeper. So this is oftentimes what happens when you call like an attorney who's a big donor. They're gonna have a gatekeeper used to keeping folks out from making the ask to the said attorney. So you want to be very courteous, never leave them with a bad impression. Okay, they're your new best friend. Know the pitch that you practice. So oftentimes with big donors, they know the questions to ask, right? So you better know your background, why you're running, have your pitch down, work on your pitch before calling, know your demographics, know what you need, what you need to have in the bank to win and the voters to win, your win number, all that kind of stuff. You need to know that so that you're always prepared. Some of you may already have a prospectus that your campaign consultant has done for you. That's very, very important. And then be sure, like in that short pitch, always make it short, that you connect your race to the prospect and issues that they care about so that it's personal for them. And then when you meet with labor, you better have a union bug on that card, or don't even bother meeting with them. And don't do all the talking, be concise, you got to listen to them. You know, don't make it all about you. You're meeting with them, find out what they care about. And if you don't have their cell phone, it's a perfect time to get their cell phone. Say, hey, I want to text you a link to something, like to my website. Where can I text it to? You know, find cute ways of getting their cell phone if you don't have cell phones for them. And always follow up. You're not going to always have the time to do handwritten no cards or thank yous, but definitely get some thank you out. This is always one of the biggest things is a follow-up that you'll find with fundraising. Okay, so if you're meeting with somebody, you just met with somebody, a labor person at a mixer, right? You might want to get their business card or try to get their cell number. Hey, I'd like to connect with you. If you can't get their cell number, ask for a biz card. Write on there anything like you talked about so you can reference it next time. Maybe it's a sports team you talked about, something like if there's something really personal that stands out that they'll remember you by too when you call them back up, that's really important. Let's see. And then regular updates on your campaign. So with your donors, make sure they're getting your emails about new endorsements, your record number of volunteers, and share your digital ads. Like, get them excited because they've invested in you and you want them to invest even more in you. And email programs should always be about fundraising. That's right. You should make it about some other stuff happening in the district where you're running. Maybe local resources, stuff going on in the city or the schools. Do make sure people are resourced as well. Think about how you would act if you were already in the office, right, that you're running to be elected to. What sort of resources would you want the community to know about? And then virtual events, we don't need to talk about this unless you really want to. This was because we've now moved back to in-person. Does anybody want to talk about virtual events? Yes? Okay. Sorry, Brenda, yes? Okay.
Yes, I would say
Okay,
yes.
virtual events. So if you're doing virtual events, people really like going back to the in-person events, but I will say if you have a bunch of donors from all over the country or northern part or southern part and you can't get everybody together, do a 1 hour virtual events. I also say an in-person event no more than an hour and a half, if possible, unless it's like a dinner or something. Everything needs to be planned in advance. You got to have an internal agenda, have guest appearances with fun people who will excite the donors. Maybe it's local elected officials, a leader of an organization. Have people do a fundraising pitch during it. If you see money coming in on the platform, have a volunteer or staffer say, thank you for your donation. You put that in the chat, it gets people excited. I actually see that this works because of the peer pressure. People want to be called out in the chat for making a donation. And then I like to do themed events for virtual events. But again, we're going back to the in-person events. I will say the meet and greet fundraiser hybrid events are great. If you want to prospect people, say you have some people that will write you money in advance, but other people that will bring potential donors to your event. They just need to meet you, then they'll write that check. Do that. There's definitely a place for the hybrid events. And then pre-registration, always best, because you have a drop off of people who won't show up for an event. Make sure everybody buys a ticket in advance. So set it up so like they have to get the ad, all that stuff. Just you have to purchase a ticket in advance, right? And that's the best way to make sure you collect as much money as possible. For the in-person events, the ones that I mean, like they're for fully vaccinated. That's just my folks how they prefer it. Raising more at the event, staged pitches, monthly donor programs, turnout, make sure people are getting the phones, if you have some volunteers to invite people to come. Again, these might be people that haven't written a check yet. And as much as we want those pre-registration, pre-sold tickets, there's going to be some people that you want just to come and hear you speak. Okay. And then event costs, keep those to a minimum. If I'm doing an event at let's say a restaurant, there's exceptions to this. Generally speaking, the alcohol, the campaign isn't paid for, people are on their own. If they're writing a big check, they can afford to buy their own cocktail. Just have some appetizers. Keep your event costs down as much as possible. Although there's a time and place where you're going to give donors, like I just did a brewery event last night. We gave every donor one beer ticket, right? The beer wasn't that expensive, so we did do that. But again, in a brewery event situation, that makes sense. Ask your donors to expand your world, introduce you to other prospects. Ask a donor to host meet and greets. Ask a donor to call a high donor prospect you can't get a meeting with, and ask your donors to come to your very busy campaign office and let them know how hard their dollar's paying off. You're able to have the signs, you're able to have the walk pieces, and your team is hard at work. Last one, big do's and don'ts, no quid pro quo. You all know that. If you are currently in any elected capacity, you may not talk about a vote and money in the same conversation, or you cannot promise anything. The only thing you're going to promise is that you're going to be you're going to promise good government. Okay, so you can't. Now you can tell them how you feel about issues, right? But you can never have a conversation about money and votes, or all that. Those have to be separate conversations. Always follow campaign finance laws. That's why you all have professional treasurers. You're not going to be your own treasurer. Never look for excuses to cancel or avoid call time. Make sure your materials are in your printer. And then ongoing metrics. So if you have to raise $100,000, say by this date, break it down by the week, and then by how many days you're actually doing calls. So, and then by the hour. So, every hour you need to hit this metric. If you're not, then you have to add in more call time or hit a higher metric the next day. Yes, Brenda.
You said, do make sure your materials are union printed. What does that mean?
Okay, sure. So I say this because all of my folks are union supported candidates, right? So it's very important in seeking, when you seek the union endorsement, the labor's federation's endorsement, if you're doing that, planning on doing that, and seeking the support of labor, you have to make sure that your materials, your walk pieces, your business cards, are printed by a union printer.
I still don't understand. I'm sorry. What is
Oh,
the
sure.
union printer?
Okay,
I'm
union printer.
in
Yeah.
Minneapolis.
Karen, are you gonna go? Yeah, sure. Karen, you're gonna be going over any labor stuff or any of the orgs, anything like that? Okay, so the unions, do you know what a labor
Yes.
union is,
Yes,
Brenda?
we will.
Yes,
Okay,
I
great.
do want to know what labor union is. My
Okay.
husband is a carpenter, so.
Beautiful. Okay, great. We love the carpenters. So the carpenters have their own union. They have their own endorsement process, which you should go through since your husband is a carpenter. It's family, right? When you seek their endorsement, you want to make sure that you go through there's the printers union, right? As allied printers, etc. The printers union is you should contact your labor fed, ask them who are the union print shops. Your local labor federation, labor council, AFL-CIO will give you a list. And or your consultant should know.
Thank you.
And we can go over that, Brenda.
Yeah, exactly. And I am so sorry, it's 4:08 and I actually have to go because of I have somebody here right now.
No, Carina, we're just
I'm so
thankful
sorry.
that you were able to spend time here and
Can
go
you,
through
if
this.
you does anybody have any urgent questions? Because I wish I want to be able to answer questions. No? Are
So
you all good?
Thank you so much for taking the time.
I am so excited for all of you.
Cramped.
Okay, Karen, if there's anything follow up, let me know, okay?
Okay.
And Karen's a phenomenal fundraiser, so she can help you too.
Yeah, right. All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. So I'm sorry we had to speed through that, but we went over and that's okay. It's okay. But I've got her presentation and there's some things that we can go over tomorrow afternoon, especially where union printing is concerned. And the importance of that. So anyway, any questions right now before we wrap up for the afternoon, now evening for our Michigan and Minnesota ladies? All right, tomorrow. Go ahead, Brenda.
What did you just say? I was looking at something.
Oh, I'm just saying, do you have any questions?
Oh, no.
All right, so tomorrow, if you guys can be just a little bit before 10,
Oh,
so
no.
that we can be on camera for State Senator Leyva, who is also Carina's client. So we'll see them both tomorrow. All right, I'll put that into Slack. And did everybody get the chat information that they needed? If not, that will be saved. All right, everybody, thank you. You were all great today. Good suggestions, Brenda. Short, good that you're encouraging people to get involved in the Democratic Party. We just have a teeny weeny different process here, but good advice, and we'll make sure that our 2 Orange County candidates get to city council meetings, school board meetings, and the clubs before the August endorsement. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Saturday night. Kick ass.
All right.
Oh,
Thank you.
I'll see you guys.
Bye.
Yes, bye.